my name is Logan Kin Final.
And my name is Sabino Martinez.
This is our kinesiology final,
which is a video analysis of a complex dynamic motor movement.
The complex dynamic motor movement is in-swinging of a soccer ball. In-swinging a soccer ball consists of 6 stages. The 6 stages are the approach, the planting of the foot, the wind-up, the forward motion, the contact, and the follow-through.
Stage 1. The approach. Before kicking the ball, the individual should prepare their body to successfully in-swing the ball by starting at an angle. If the individual is kicking with their right foot, then he or she should be on the left side of the ball and vice versa. Their knees should be slightly flexed and they should be on their toes as they propel forward. Also, their plant foot should be behind their kicking foot so they can successfully enter into stage 2. In stage 2, which is the planting of the foot stage, they should place their plant foot next to the ball pointing straight forward. The planted foot should be further away from the ball than normal, so they can get their kicking foot around the ball to curl it inward. The ankle remains locked and the knee is slightly flexed in the left leg during the planted phase and the wind-up phase on the ground. During the wind-up phase, their hip should be extended, slightly adducted, and slightly externally rotated. The knee is flexed and slightly internally rotated, and the ankle remains plantar flexed.
Now in stage 4, which is the forward motion stage, the leg moves forward in a linear motion toward the soccer ball. The hip begins to move into flexion and is slightly externally rotated. The knee remains flexed and the ankle remains in a plantar flexed position. In the foot contact phase, the hip is slightly flexed, the knee is slightly flexed, and the ankle is moving into dorsiflexion. However, since the athlete's trying to in-swing the ball instead of kicking it straight forward, they should abduct their leg to kick outside of the ball with predominantly their medial distal portion of their first metatarsal compared to using the first and second proximal portion of their metatarsals when kicking it straight forward. Also, the ankle is slightly externally rotated to assist in contacting the medial distal portion of the first metatarsal. The follow-through is important to help the momentum. When in-swinging the ball, the hip is flexed, the knee is extended, and the ankle is now dorsiflexed. There is also more emphasis on adduction of the leg, internal rotation of the hip, and internal rotation of the ankle as a result of in-swinging the ball.
The approach. The hip flexors contract concentrically to create the forward swing of the lower extremity. As the left leg propels forward, the right hip will extend and the knee will straighten. The hip flexors, which consist of the rectus femoris, iliopsoas major and minor, and sartorius, the quadriceps complex, which consists of the rectus femoris, vastus medialis, intermedius, and lateralis, concentrically contracts. The triceps surae, which consists of the gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris tendon, concentrically contract when the ankle is in a plantar flex position. The hamstrings and gluteus complex are the antagonists since they are relaxed during this stage. The stabilizers and fixators consist of the abdominal muscles, spine, and the neck muscles. The role of the fixators are to stop unwanted motion, so these muscles keep the trunk stable through this stage. The abdominal muscles include the rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, external/internal obliques. The spinal muscles include the erector spinae, iliocostalis, longissimus, and spinalis. The neck muscles include the sternocleidomastoid, splenius capitis, levator scapulae, trapezius, and scalenus. The deltoids stabilize the shoulder in order to allow you to stay square to the ball. The right arm is straight, so the triceps anconeus are concentrically contracting, which causes the biceps to act as the antagonist, while on the left arm, the biceps, which consist of biceps brachialis and brachioradialis, are concentrically contracted to cause flexion, while the triceps, long, medial, and lateral head are acting as the antagonist muscles.
The muscles used in the planting of the foot stage include the gluteus complex, which consists of the gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and gluteus minimus. Also, the quadricep complex includes the rectus femoris, vastus intermedius, vastus lateralis, and vastus medialis, which also eccentrically contracts to slow down the motion. Once the foot lands, the knee is slightly flexed and is in an isometric contraction to maintain balance. The muscles involved in this isometric contraction are the quadricep complex. In order to stabilize your foot during plantation, the flexor hallucis brevis is eccentrically contracted to slow and control the planted foot as it rolls forward.
Muscles used in the wind-up stage are the hip flexors, eccentrically contract to control the leg swing back. Hip flexors include the rectus femoris, iliopsoas major/minor, and sartorius. The glute and hamstrings concentrically contract to also engage to control the backward leg swing. The primary glute muscles that engage in hip extension is the gluteus maximus, and it is assisted by the gluteus medius and minimus. The hamstrings are made up of the biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus. The abductors also assist in controlling hip movement as the leg swings backward and prevents abduction. These include pectineus, adductor brevis, adductor longus, adductor magnus, and the gracilis. Another movement that is occurring during the wind-up phase is plantar flexion in the ankle. These muscles include a concentric contraction of the tibialis posterior, fibularis brevis and longus, gastrocnemius, and soleus. The antagonist muscles are the tibialis anterior and fibularis tertius. The antagonist muscles would be the quadriceps complex. Stabilizers and fixators are the same as previously listed. During the wind-up phase, the arm that is on the same side of the kicking leg also winds backwards with the thigh. The muscles that extend the shoulder are the latissimus dorsi, subscapularis, posterior deltoid, and teres major. The right side of the torso is laterally rotated to get the proper amount of torque when in swinging the ball. These muscles include the internal and external abdominal obliques. Also, the trunk slightly extends, which include the erector spinae. Throughout the motion, the core muscles that work as stabilizers are the transverse abdominis and multifidi.
The muscles used in forward motion include the quadricep complex. They concentrically contract to extend the knee. The quadricep complex includes the rectus femoris, vastus medialis, vastus intermedius, and vastus lateralis. The antagonist muscles are the biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus, which make up the hamstring complex, popliteus, gastrocnemius, gracilis, and sartorius. The medial stabilizers are the semitendinosus, semimembranosus, gracilis, medial gastrocnemius, vastus medialis obliques, and popliteus. The lateral stabilizers are the gluteus maximus, TFL, vastus lateralis via the IT band, biceps femoris, lateral gastrocnemius, plantaris, and popliteus. The ankle remains in the plantar flex position. The closer you get to the ball and slowing down the speed, the more your hamstrings start to eccentrically contract. The upper body and trunk muscles used when kicking a ball include the supraspinatus and deltoids. The supraspinatus and deltoids help slightly abduct the arm and swing it forward as the foot makes contact with the ball. Also, the muscles that propel the arm forward are the pectoralis major and anterior fibers of the deltoid.
Contact phase. The left leg is still in an isometric contraction. The right leg now in dorsiflexion since the foot is making contact with the ball, which concentrically contracts the tibialis anterior and fibularis tertius. The antagonist muscles include the tibialis posterior and fibularis longus and brevis. The hamstrings are eccentrically contracting to start slowing and controlling the right leg. The right hip flexors are also concentrically contracting to lift the leg into the follow-through stage. The erector spinea are assisting in the hyperextension of the spine. The leg is slightly abducted, which engages the TFL, gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and the piriformis. The center of gravity has shifted to the left side, causing more stabilizers and fixators to work harder. On the planted foot side, quad concentrically contracts. Her right arm is abducted and extended, which engages the subscapularis, teres major, pectoralis major, infraspinatus, and latissimus dorsi, triceps, and anconeus. The right arm is abducted, adducted, and flexed, which involve the same muscles in replacing the triceps and anconeus with biceps brachialis and brachioradialis.
The muscles used in the follow-through of the kicking leg include the hip flexors. The hip flexors concentrically contract Also, the hamstrings decelerate the leg by eccentrically contracting to prevent your muscles from overstretching and causing injury. Also, during this stage, the ankle is dorsiflexed, which concentrically contracts the tibialis anterior and fibularis tertius. The left leg or the planted leg is still in a flexed position, which is an isometric contraction. The right leg is now straight, and this causes the quadriceps to concentrically contract.
Description of joint angles for the hip. Lowest angle is 108 degrees. Highest angle is 180 degrees. Total range of motion is 172 degrees. The speed is 15.87 meters per second. Total distance is 386.21 centimeters. Time is 0.77 seconds. Acceleration is 143.55 meters per second squared. And then starting velocity is 0.18 meters per second. And then velocity is 15.24 meters per second.
When determining power output, you take work divided by time, which is 32,137.97 divided by 0.77, which equals 24,746.24. When determining force production, you take mass, kilograms times acceleration, which is meters per second squared, which is 58 kilograms times 143.55, which equals 8,325.9. When determining work rate, you take force and multiply it by distance, which is 8,325.9 times 3.86, which equals 32,137.97. When determining acceleration, you take velocity minus the starting velocity and then multiply that by times per second, which is 15.24 minus 0.18, then multiplied by 0.77, which equals 11.60.
Ideal movement of an in-swing corner kick. So the biomechanics of kicking a ball. When you're kicking a ball, you need to follow these few simple steps to kick a ball properly. Opposite arm needs to be out away from your body. Both knees bent. Your body needs to be leaning to the left if you're kicking with your right foot. You also must plant at the right spot, not too close to your foot, not too far away from your foot. Planting in the right places will further improve the accuracy of the shot that you take. Looking at the ball is also very important because this will be able to make your shot more accurate. The swinging of the arms is very important as well because swinging fluently improves balance and power and makes the kick look fluid and athletic. Bringing your foot back is also very crucial because the farther back you bring your leg, the more momentum you create. Locking your ankle is crucial because it helps to keep your foot firm and straight. It's simple to learn and makes a big difference. Keeping your body straight is also very important because leaning either way messes up your kick. It partially takes away balance and momentum. Kicking the ball with the correct part of your foot is also very important because then the ball will be kicked properly and the ball will go where you want it to go. The part of the foot that should make contact with the ball depends on the type of kick. Lastly, you should follow through your kick to prevent injury and to have an impactful kick.
We found 3 different deviations in this individual's biomechanics when kicking a ball. The left foot, which is the planted foot, excessively supinates, resulting in an increased chance of a lateral ankle sprain. The muscles of the ankle include the tibialis anterior, tibialis posterior, fibularis tertius, and fibularis longus and brevis. The tibialis anterior does dorsiflexion and inversion. The fibularis tertius does dorsiflexion and eversion. The tibialis posterior does plantar flexion and inversion, and the fibularis longus and brevis does plantar flexion and eversion. This individual should work on strengthening these muscles to improve balance and stability, especially the fibularis tertius and fibularis longus and brevis. A good isolated strengthening exercise is 4-way ankle with a resistance band. A total body exercise could include a single leg balancing on a Bosu ball. She should stretch or roll out her gastroc and soleus and improve her ankle mobility. She can stretch by using a slant board or roll out by using a foam roller. She can improve her ankle mobility by lunging forward and focusing on keeping her back heel down while pushing the knee down and in front of her.
The second deviation we found is possible tight hip flexor and or quadriceps. The athlete's kicking leg during the wind-up phase should be extended and flexed slightly more. Ideally, her foot would almost be touching her glutes. In order to improve or fix the deviation, she should roll out the hip flexor and quadricep complex, strengthen gluteus and hamstring complex, stretch the hip flexor and quadricep complex by performing the kneeling hip flexor stretch and quad pulls. Four-way hip with a resistance band focusing on hip extension would improve the hamstring and glute strength. A total body exercise would be Roman deadlifts to help strengthen the posterior chain.
The third deviation is the lack of the right shoulder extension. When the kicking leg winds up, so should the ipsilateral upper limb. These muscles include the latissimus dorsi and teres major. In order to improve or fix this dysfunction, rolling out the latissimus dorsi and teres major with a lacrosse ball would be beneficial. Also, stretching the latissimus dorsi by raising your arms and interlocking your fingers while laterally tilting side to side will help.
Recap on the movement. The motion begins in the sagittal plane and then moves into the frontal plane, making this movement occur in the oblique plane.
There are predominantly 7 joints used in this motion. The first is the subtalar joint, which includes the calcaneus and talus. The second is the talocrural joint, which consists of the distal ends of the tibia and fibula with the proximal end of the talus. The third is the tibiofibular joint, which consists of the tibia and fibula. The fourth is the patellofemoral joint, which consists of the patella and femur. Fifth is the acetabulofemoral joint, which consists of the femur and acetabulum. The sixth is the glenohumeral joint, which includes the humerus, scapula, and clavicle. And the last is the elbow joint, which includes the radius, ulna, and humerus.